with what you have. Let me give it to you again. Do what you can where you are with what you have. I wanna give a true statement. I pray you don't get offended by it. Yesterday is gone. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow has not yet come. So you only have today, and you need to work what you have today. I told you this morning in a status that I made that my strength is greater than any struggle or stronghold. The reason why I said that is because if you need to make some changes in yourself or in your environment, please do not dwell on your past. I'm telling you that even from some things I have been dealing with just in this week alone. I can't stay in my past. If I stay in my past, I'm jacking up my destinies and the purposes of what God has called for me to do. You can't change what happened yesterday. It's a canceled check. Today is your promissory note. So hear me very carefully. You can't control what's beyond your control. You can only focus on the current moment that you have and what you can do right now. Growth always comes from taking action. Growth always comes from taking proper and necessary action. But watch this here. Not only that, growth will also bring criticism. Please write that down. It's going to bring criticism. Whatever course that you decide upon, there will always be somebody to tell you where you're wrong at. There's always going to be somebody who's going to have a different viewpoint. There's always going to be somebody who wants to control and manipulate and have some spirit of Jezebel and witchcraft. There are people who feel that they will have some entitlements to you. So you're going to always have somebody tell you where you're wrong at. I don't care who you are, whether it's your mama, your daddy, your sister, your cousin, your auntie, your brother, people in your fellowship, people in your leadership, people in your sphere, your circle. It doesn't matter. Somebody's going to always have a problem with what you say. I want to make sure that I'm not saying it for you to take offense. I'm saying it because it's a true statement. And hear me, a lot of times their words may hurt, but you got to know how to move forward. You may not even agree with what they talking about, but you got to know how to move forward. And what I'm learning, in order to reach your potential, you must do, what you must not do, hear me very carefully, what you must not do is to believe what they say that you can't do, okay? You're going to have to understand that most people underestimate themselves. So because they have a spirit, amen, where they are not adequate, they'll try to reduce you down to make you feel that you're not adequate. So hear me, they shoot for what they want to attempt to become. But if they can't become what they think they should be, they'll lower you down to make you think that you can't be. I was sharing with a colleague of mine not too long ago, and I said to them, be very careful when people come to you with what other people's observations are of you. If you have a history of relationship with them and they're always telling you what always somebody else said, but then when they come tell you something and they know you're going to spaz out, if they're really a covering or really a good friend or really someone who you consider very close to you, they'll tell you even if it hurts and not camouflage who is actually the culprit behind what it is. If you do, maybe you might need to say, maybe it's you to have the issue and not just them. And that's why I'm saying you have to do what you can where you are with what you have. If you know it's only you, you can only do what you can with what you have. And a lot of times we must endure what it is that we are in our presence so we can move to a greater place of our future. A little later today, you'll see some other posts that I wrote. And this is one that I wrote before I came on. If you don't design your own life plan, chances are that you'll fall into somebody else's plan. I like people to have their own thing. And hear me very carefully for what I'm getting ready to say. If you're not careful, you'll become the sum total of somebody else's expectations. Because a lot of people just allow life to simply happen to them. They'll float along, they'll wait, they'll react. And by the time the large portion of their life is behind them, they'll begin to realize that they should have been more proactive, more strategic, more prolific in what it is that they'll do. And then they'll pass the buck and share the blame, not share the blame for what it is that they were doing. They allowed their lives, hear me, people allowed their lives to become very complicated because they trust other people and don't trust themselves. In this season, and I know some of you going to write this down and you can take it. In this season, you need to bet on you. Bet on you. Stop betting against yourself. Are y'all listening to me? See, life doesn't have to be as hard as we make it. See, if you know your values, if you know that you got to make some key decisions, if you know how to manage the decisions in which you make on a day-to-day basis, your life will be smooth sailing. But hear me, this is where your life becomes complicated because a lot of times you don't make decisions. You don't have no values. You don't have no plan. You have no mission statement for your life. So then what happens is you wait on somebody else to validate you. A lot of people have to be very careful of how they go through life. There are many different facets to me. There's not just a church entity about me. There's a business entity of me. There is a marketing entity of me. There is a theologian part of me. I mean, there are many facets of me. And I don't cross-pollinate when I don't have the right decision-making process. Are you following me? You have to understand that you got to come away, that you must have a design for your life to be as simple as possible by doing a couple of things. Number one, watch this here. You can receive what you need, number one, by receiving personally, always hearing repeatedly, and having some strategic goals, okay? These are systems that I have in place for my life that takes me away from any complexities of my everyday journey. Okay, that's why I can go to bed at night, because I'm able to say I did the best I could with what I could do. Now, hear me. Now, there are some times, and there have been some days when I failed. There have been some times when I missed the mark. There are some times when I didn't see it or I didn't make the right call when it came to certain things. I've just learned that no longer will I allow myself to stay dormant in a place that God never told for me to be in the first place. I remember my mother used to say this, but my brother said it to me recently, and I laughed about it. He said, Robbie, you only live once, and if you work it right, once would be enough. And when he said that to me, I laughed, I hollered, because being an empowerment person, I always teach the people that I rock with. I say there is no warm up to life. There is no dress rehearsal, but yet there are people who seems to treat it that way. A lot of people, they walk life cold. They walk life with no preparation. Y'all ain't gonna like this today. And hear me, they trying to go along to get along and figure it out while they go along. And see, watch this here. If you're not careful, that can be messy. You sure enough gonna fail, and you sure enough gonna make a plethora of mistakes. You gotta get to the place where you wanna start strong and finish strong. If you have a plan for your life, your career will work itself out. Please write that down somewhere. If you have a plan for your life, your career will work itself out. The problem that most people have is that they don't spend no time planning. They don't plan nothing. I gotta live there's some things that I gotta do outside of ministry that I gotta plan. And sometimes, hear me, when one takes over the other, then I become poor when I don't know how to properly plan. Are y'all listening to me? You have got to say to yourself that you got to spend the right time. Watch this here. Have you planned for vacation? Or do you just wake up and say, oh, I'm just going to get up and go here today? Because hear me, a vacation has to be planned. Especially when you got bills in your house and you already don't have the money to pay your bills. Hear me, you don't have the money to pay your bills. So you'll get money that you don't have to go pay for something that you can't afford to come back and be double behind where you should have been. So hear me, you got to work hard in the beginning to be able to enjoy it later. And sometimes you got to say they spend more time, hear me, they spend more time planning for Christmas and planning for cruises and planning for stuff that you don't need instead of having a plan for how you can stay in the black and not in the red. When you have to keep looking at your bank account on your mobile app every day, that's when you're going to start having a problem. I know y'all didn't like what I just said, but somebody right there ought to say, preach Peters. Because people focus, hear me, people focus on what they think will give them the greatest return. And looking at your bank account, always having a bunch of debits hitting it versus surpluses, it's not going to add anything to you. If anything, it's going to make you say to yourself, God, I need some help and I need it right away. Planning your life is about finding yourself. Can you write that down, please? Planning your life is actually about finding yourself, knowing who you are, and then hear me, then customizing a design for your growth. Once you draw the blueprint for your life, then you can apply it to your career. Be very careful of who you cross-pollinate with when it comes to certain things, whether it's business, whether it's ministry, whether it's apples and oranges. Be very careful. The Bible, it's like you have 5 talents, the other got 3, and the other have 1. Sometimes you got to be very careful of the one that has the greatest return, because if they don't know how to do it right, they're going to mess up and they're not going to have anything at all. So as I leave y'all today, as I leave you today, be not afraid of growing slowly. Be not afraid of growing slowly. Be afraid of standing still. Please write that down. I know Eddie Johnson's going to take that and he's going to preach that all over the country. Be not afraid of growing slowly. Be afraid of standing still. I think y'all missed what I just said. See, I'm aware. Watch this here. You got to know your own vices. You got to know your own vices. I'm aware that I can be a very impatient person. I thank God I got a lot more patience than I used to have. The other day, I was in the car with Lady Warrell, and we were coming. We were leaving work, and we saw this train. Now, hear me. All the time when we always go, we